What's going on, friends? Welcome to another episode of the Year One Wrestling Podcast, the show that dives deep into the early stages and formation of your favorite professional wrestlers, bringing out their struggles, their fears, and most importantly, their most interesting stories. I'm your host, the King of Chaos, Logan Black. Thank you so much for checking us out on whatever platform you enjoy your podcast on. We're all about showing love here, so if you dig what you hear or you just feel like being awesome, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, leave a review, share, retweet, tell a friend, do whatever you can to help us get the word out on the show. Well, how has your weeks been, guys? It's been an interesting week over here in NYC. 2 snowstorms within a couple of days of each other. Man, I've been shoveling so much, my back is killing me. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, because there's literally just so much snow everywhere. I've been locked inside, but I have been catching up on a lot of the stuff on IWTV. I was actually on IWTV Live for Weekend at Sean's Night 2. Night 1 was ridiculous. Both nights, they had the legendary Too Cold Scorpio there. The dude, I don't know his age. He's gotta be gotta be somewhere in his mid-50s at this point. And he is still doing everything that he was doing in the 90s. Unbelievable professional wrestler, but the only place to catch that stuff is IWTV. If you don't have IWTV, you gotta hop on in, join up with the promo code Logan Black, that is all caps, one word, and get your first 5 days free. You could check out Weekend at Sean's Night 1, Night 2, which has me, Jeff Cannonball, and Haunted Francis as a tag team. I think we're still trying to make peace with whoever the hell that was. Or literally hundreds of pro wrestling companies right there. Tons of shows. You'll never get bored with IWTV. Also, if you're looking to support this show with your wallet, you could do that in one of 2 ways. The first being is my Pro Wrestling Tee store. That is ProWrestlingTees.com/King of Chaos NYC, where we've got a bunch of shirts there that I will never have at my merch table. That's right, they are exclusive to Pro Wrestling Tees. Go ahead and hop on there, check those out. Or you can go to my online merch store. That's kingofchaosnyc.bigcartel.com, and you can grab pretty much everything that I would normally have at my merch table at this point, when merch tables don't really exist. Only place to get that is online. But as I say every single week, all of your comments, likes, retweets, every little thing that you guys do for this show is beyond appreciated by yours truly. On to this week's guest. None other than The Whisper. I was kind of afraid that this interview would kind of kill the gimmick. You get some people on the show, friends of mine, people that I've worked with, people I've been familiar with for years, and the last thing that you want to do is kind of screw with their gimmick if they're, this interesting, weird masked character, or in Whisper's case, somebody who really doesn't talk. But The Whisper had a whole lot to say, was very outspoken, very eloquent in how he speaks as well. I don't think that a lot of fans that are watching him at shows or on YouTube or IWTV or wherever else really get to see how well-spoken The Whisper is. So I'm sorry if I've completely killed that gimmick here, but he's an intelligent dude. I gotta say, I had a match with him fairly recently, which you can catch on IWTV, that I'm very proud of. It was really, really, really fun. We touch on it a bit during the conversation, but The Whisper is multi-talented. Not only is he an excellent professional wrestler, he is a world-class yo-yo player. I didn't even know the correct term for somebody who is like a bomb-ass yo-yo person, but apparently yo-yo player is the right term. If you ever see, just Whisper hanging out outside of a show, or him on a personal level, that this dude is ridiculous. I have not picked up a yo-yo since I was in 5th grade. They were trendy at that point, and I learned like 3 or 4 tricks, and I thought it was pretty cool. And then this dude comes around with like what appears to be like a good-looking yo-yo, not one that you buy at the corner store like I did. And man, he is a fucking artist with that shit. And I do not use that term loosely. What he does with a yo-yo is art. I'm sure there are some videos somewhere of the dude absolutely killing it, so please check those out and support him in his multiple creative endeavors. Also had a ton of fun chatting with Whisper about his tastes in wrestling, especially growing up. We all loved Sting, we all loved Goldberg, we all loved, all of those legends. But man, when we get into a conversation about the WCW Cruiserweights, we go off the rails. So much fun. I've got to get Whisper, I've got to get Nick Stapp. Once all this COVID stuff is done, we got to sit down and we got to watch some WCW Thunder. Because I know Whisper and I will be going absolutely nuts for some crazy trios match, and then Nick will come in with like, yo, Glacier versus Virgil. Nice. Anyway, guys, go right ahead. Enjoy this. Check this out. So much fun. The Whisper on the Year One Wrestling Podcast. So we are here with none other than The Whisper. I'm genuinely hoping that we are not going to have to put the volume way up for this one, that we can, at least just for the interview, keep things just, normal volume. I don't mean to kill the gimmick, but,
I sure will see what I can do. I will do my best.
I'm saying this is an audio format podcast, so, hoping that people are not going to be, you never know, people might see your name on here and immediately put the volume up, and I'll have to troll them and, push the volume controls all the way up so it just boom right off the bat. Just
start the video with just the bot. I am the table. Just start something like that on there.
So off the bat, let's talk about your breaking in terms of your fandom. What are your earliest memories of pro wrestling?
Oh man, I remember when I was really young, I would watch like WCW back, probably like 97, 98, back when I was too young to appreciate what the actual wrestling that was happening was. And I was like, Sting, this is awesome. Goldberg, oh my goodness. Because, that's what all the kids in the 90s were
Oh, yeah.
It's so funny now to think of the wrestling that you fell in love with, and then to go back and watch that same era and then look at it in just an entirely different way. You know what I mean? Because WCW is an entirely different thing to me than it is
when
I first saw Sting. You know what I mean? Which Sting multi-year what is happening? What,
dude,
is
wild, right?
It was so much happened this week in wrestling, and I don't even know. It's crazy. It was bananas. It was a bananas week for wrestling.
Wild week of wrestling. It's ridiculous that,
unbelievable.
And Sting is one of those dudes who is just, everyone gives Jericho credit as being somebody who is able to stay relevant and stay important and, change his gimmick up but still be himself. And I feel like Sting has done a pretty fucking great job of that too. All throughout his career, and it's never been, there's traces of, who, the man behind the makeup is, but goddamn, he has just stayed relevant every era.
Right, because Sting's been active since the mid '80s, in some, because I think people don't even really think about that to an extent. Everyone thinks Sting, and they immediately go to Crow Paint, anti-NWO creepy rafters Sting. That's everyone's immediate reaction when Surfer Sting is an entirely different world that people are probably largely unaware of.
And personally, that's my favorite Sting. That to me was just
so neat. It's so colorful. It's so exciting.
That's his thing. He was so much energy, and I go back and I watch those matches now because like you were saying, I watched anything that was wrestling I was watching as a kid, but I loved Sting because he was a colorful, fun character, and I go back on it, and for an era where you didn't have to be both a big guy and a great worker, Sting was a big guy and a great worker.
Right. You don't need either of these things, but you have both. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that guy is, to me,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Incredible. But yeah, you make an excellent point about that era of WCW being so full of just talent that I don't even think they appreciated all that stuff. Because again, you could have just watched it. I know I did. I'm in the same boat as you, where it was all we did was just watch, and it was Goldberg and Sting and NWO. But we really, I think all of us glanced over the fact that we were getting, these lucha 6-man matches that were just.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's my going back to watch WCW now. That's the AAA influence, all of the lucha matches, like everything, all of that, like everything Rey Mysterio did in WCW from, I don't know, 1995 to 1998 was literally flawless.
Yeah.
Like when I like, and not even an exaggeration on like the word flawless. Literally flawless. It like he didn't mess up at fucking all. Literally never. Like up until the point that they decided to like unmask him for like whatever reason. Like up until that point, like literally everything he did was perfect.
Yeah, 100%. I think again, another guy that like as greatly regarded as he is, still stupid underrated in terms of changing the entire landscape of wrestling.
Right, absolutely. I forget specifically who it was now, but I remember seeing somebody post the other day that like the first time when like Rey Mysterio won the World Heavyweight Championship, when 175-pound Rey Mysterio won the World Heavyweight Championship,
Yep.
everyone our size was just like, wait, what? We can do what? Like it was just a revolution for so many people, I think, like in just my like the cruiserweight, smaller sort of wrestling like size, like the general size of humans that make up a good amount of indie wrestling.
And again, it was also the fact that like it wasn't just the fact that he was severely undersized for, you know, getting over in the States. It was the fact that like I think up until that point, in terms of like your big two at the time, because you know you go down to Texas and the Guerreros were over and Mil Mascaras would, you know, make his, you know, in SoCal and stuff like that, but a legitimate Mexican lucha star with a mask on was not somebody any of these big companies were ever going to put their money behind, and they fucking had to. They had no choice.
Right, and like it was, and they just, it's so, in a way, it's almost like frustrating to see like the way that the WCW cruiserweights went at the, just because like they got so overshined by like the desire to make the heavyweight belt the most important thing in the universe, or whatever that was that they did. But like some of the matches were just like unbelievable. Like they like, I think one of my favorites that I can think of offhand is Trios. Is a Trios they did. It's I want to say it's Mysterio, Hector Garza, and Juventud versus Psychosis, Silver King, and La Parka. It's December. It's December. I can't remember the exact date, but it's December '96. I think it's December '96. And the week prior, there was a Nitro prior where they did a tag match that didn't feature Silver King and Hector Garza on either team, respectively. The other, it was Ray and Juventud versus Psychosis and La Parka, and that match was unbelievable. And then they came back the next week with a trios match that was equally unbelievable. And then it did so well ratings wise, they never put any of them together ever again.
Yeah.
because they were like, no, we need, the heavyweights are the most important people. We can't have this.
Right.
This is madness.
WCW was that was a freak show and a half of just absolute insanity left and right. Looking back on, it was phenomenal. Looking back on it, it was so much fun to be, a fan of, but like, holy shit, it was
right.
wacky.
Woof.
Right, like on the same show as seeing like Vincent, wrestling
or
fucking
whomever.
The former Big Boss Man. You get, Fire and Ice versus the Steiners. You get a cruiserweight match that will blow your mind, and then out of nowhere, you've got like, Yuji Nagata in his like American Excursion doing the job to like Glacier. Because why not?
And it would even be like, there would be to the point where like they would even have they would even have cruiserweight matches running, but the commentary wouldn't be addressing like anything that was happening in the ring. The commentary
Right.
100%, it would 100% never about like Mike Tenay would call Hurricane Rana a head scissors like once in a while, and then everything else was about like what Nash was going to do later in the night, which
Right.
neat.
Uh,
Cool.
oh my god, dude! You and I have to sit down and bullshit WCW at some point and just fucking you, me, and Nick Stapp, because Nick Stapp, it's like you and me could mark out for like all this fun stuff, and then Nick's gonna come in and be like, "Yo, Ice Train versus Craig Pittman," and we're just gonna fucking lose it.
I just want to. I just want to keep watching. This is like relatively unrelated. It just made me think of it. I just want to watch clip packages of Billy Kidman doing scary ass SSPs.
Yeah.
Just no regard for his own life or safety. Just throwing his body. Just the epitome of just fuck it. Let's do the deal. It was always like, wow, he just doesn't care. Terrifying.
So bringing things back to year one, let's talk about you breaking in and where you chose to do so. So let's talk about when you finally did decide to break into wrestling. Where did you start out?
So I mean, I started training back 2015, I guess. I started training at the with Chikara at the Wrestle Factory. I guess back then when I started, the trainers it was Fire Ant, Hallowicked, Chuck Taylor, who was often joined by Tracy Williams, Hot Sauce Tracy Williams.
Ooh.
Yeah, there would be two. When I remember when I was first the beginner classes, they alternated weeks. It was either Hallowicked and Icarus, or it was usually either like Chuck Taylor and Tracy Williams, or like that. Like so many people came through the classes when Dustin taught classes. It was just Dustin classes were always the best kind, I think, of pandemonium. Because there would just be random days where it'd just be like, you guys want to do Canadian destroyers?
Which,
sure.
I mean, in reality, that's a really good exercise for body control.
It sure is, and it really, it's a lot of, and especially because of just how like rampantly common it is for somebody to just be like, yeah, I do a Canadian in my shine. You do what? Like, you know, it's a good thing to know.
Absolutely.
Even if it does seem like an arbitrary thing to show somebody who's just starting to learn wrestling.
Right.
It was always fun.
That seems like a really well-rounded crew, though, because, you know, obviously, you know, Dustin is going to be, you know, a phenomenal performer, but also just, you know, much more relaxed and can kind of work a lot of different ways. Whereas Tracy is an absolute brilliant mat technician. Fire Ant and Hallowicked, just some of the best all-round in-ring performers that I've ever, you know, witnessed. So, like, it's a really well-rounded crew over there.
Yeah, I was super, super, super fortunate to have been like under the tutelage that I was, like 100%. Like the like everything that I learned there is like I definitely 100% consider to be like absolutely invaluable. You know what I mean? I mean, apart from giving me like the entity that I am, I mean, like it certainly helped like shape like what I am as a wrestler as well.
Let's talk about your first day going in there. What did they have you doing?
I think my first day of training was actually a Dustin class. I think my first day of training was a Dustin class, and the way I think beginner classes worked back then, like every now and then there would just be new people that signed up. Like so, like randomly a beginner class would have like someone who's literally their first like day or two. It was like that was that day. So it wasn't always like the weirdest thing to like work into whatever, but it was more or less just like going at the back of the line and it's just seeing what everyone else did. I can't like it was pretty much just like wait your turn, see what's happening, and do the thing. You know what I mean? So I mean, it was it was definitely like interesting.
Right.
Because I would say like to an extent you're kind of like thrown into it. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like a like all right, well here's the like at least in the way that I started like with the trainings that I had, it was thrown not like in a bad way, but like just sort of like come on, you can do this sort of thing.
Right.
And I mean,
it's
like,
kind of a sink or swim type situation. Like get in there. If you can get it, you can get it.
Right, to an extent, and especially for like just like basic, like your basic things, like your rolls and like rolls and bumps and like all the like your things of that nature. That's like the things. It's like you should be able to, I don't know, watch and discern. Like, all right, I understand this to an extent, at least. Maybe not at first, but it should be like it shouldn't be like the hardest thing to achieve at first, I think.
Right. And I also think that a lot of trainers kind of pull out somebody who, has the ability to pull these things off, and others who are kind of really not quite there and are going to take a whole lot more coaching to make that stuff through. And I think that, a good trainer, which is exactly what you had, are people that are going to be able to see potential in somebody and kind of, give them that, boot in the ass if they need it.
That's fair, absolutely. I think like part of it too is that like I came from like a number of years prior of like just of backyard wrestling and like stupid things and jumping off of buildings and whatever have you, you know what I mean? So like I came into it with like kind of not like a chip on my shoulder so much as, but it's really funny because it's like the way backyard wrestling is today in 2020. In 2015, to think of what it is today is like incomprehensible. It doesn't even because it was like even that short a time period ago. I feel like it was almost like still so taboo to be like, yeah, I was a backyard wrestler.
Well, that's the crazy thing about it. The crazy thing about it is the fact that like, yeah, it was still taboo 5 years ago, and now it's, a lot more accepted. But when I was breaking in, which was like, about 7 or so years prior to that, it was so
Right.
taboo to the point where I remember my first day walking into Johnny O'Rod's office, and one of the dudes there, who's actually a friend of mine now, came in and gave me this, oh, do you backyard? We don't fuck with backyarders here. We'll fuck you up in that ring. And it was like, oh, like I better, stay away from anybody who backyards because that's a death sentence here. We don't want that. And again, fast forwarding now, it's just like, yeah,
Right.
that's part of the culture.
What happened? How did we get here? It's great that we did, but what warp hole did we miss? I don't know. Anyway,
you know what I think it is, because I have a theory about this. It was,
sure, yeah.
I mean, obviously, like, you're going to have to go through some kind of formal training in order to kind of go in and go anywhere. I think it was the fact that, like, there were so many people who were, who had, done their backyard stuff, had gained a bit of notoriety with that kind of stuff, and then switched over and went to a school and got really good really quickly because they had spent years doing all these, like, ridiculous moves. They didn't listen to a fucking thing their trainer said about slow it down, kid, and just invented their own fucking style that got over, like Alex Zane, like Will Ospreay, who were guys who, like, are proud backyarders. Joey
Right.
Janela as well. Like, these are dudes who were like, this is what it was, this is what I did, and I'm going to do what the fuck I want to do. And then, boom, that fucking style gets over, these guys are making money, and now you can't deny the, the influence of these kids doing this DIY fucking punk rock shit in their backyard.
Yeah, and it's it really is. It's heartwarming to an extent. You know what I mean? Because like 100% the Whisper would not exist without backyard wrestling. 100%. Backyard wrestling is where I fell in love with wrestling and where I like decided that like I never wanted to stop doing this as long as, you know, my stupid body is able to, you know, as is the nature pretty much of all of us.
So let's talk about, you know, you're getting in there at this point and you're training, you have all these incredible trainers. What are your goals at this point early on?
It was interesting because like there was always like first class, not that there's like specific classes, I guess, of like the Chikara, the Wrestle Factory graduates, but like if I were to the specific like class, quote unquote, I think that I would like kind of consider myself a part of would have been like with like your Travis Huckabee, with Crummels and Defarge, like the Razorhawk, and like those types of people. And it was interesting because like we all kind of came up at the same time, and like progressed throughout training similarly because we all started around the same time. But it was interesting to see the way in which sometimes the way in which it worked with like the way debuts and things like that kind of worked with Chikara wasn't necessarily always indicative of a person's readiness. More so it was where they fit as an entity within the storyline. And if that time hadn't come for them yet, then regardless of whether they were deemed ready to perform, like you wouldn't get that like bump up to the roster per se.
Very specific and very like by the book curriculum and like how they go about their business over there.
Right. It really was. And I mean, like there was, because I mean, there's like the beginner class and there was like the advanced class, and I think, I mean, at some point they put an intermediate class between the two, just because I think at one point, the school had something like 70, like something like 70 students. There was a lot of people, a lot of people, but so like there was like it was like an 82 item list basically of like moves. It was basically like a test, like a test that you would take, but of wrestling moves that you had to demonstrate that you could both give and take safely, and you would get scored on that. And if you passed, you could go up to advanced class, and if you didn't pass the test, then you wouldn't go to advanced class. The same way like an actual school would work, I guess.
So from here, because you're talking about, you know, advancing and moving on and stuff. What was the, I guess, impetus to get us to the Whisper? Was it something that kind of fit into a storyline? Was it a character presented to you? Or is this something that you had kind of been working on and it made sense to bring it in here?
Well, for the most part, it was presented to me. I knew of, and I would say the Whisper was presented to me in stages, I would say, because like it was like at first it was like I got the name from somebody. It was like a secret, like, which I guess is funny now in retrospect, but it was like a secret, like, yeah, I know what your name is. It's gonna be the Whisper. And I was like, cool. And but then it sort of came in waves to an extent, because the way Quack would sometimes give directives, it would be he would say something like, imagine your character doesn't actually speak, but instead holds a projector that he uses to speak through a recorded video. I don't know what that looks like, but you're gonna figure it out. and, and it was like, huh. There was always those interesting challenges that were like, how is this ever going to? Oh, okay, I guess we'll make this happen. Because that was always the way that was always kind of the way it was. It was like, how are we? Doesn't matter how it's gonna happen. We gotta make it work.
Right.
Thus became Mortimer in the projected promos, which I love. It was great. It ended up being like phenomenal. But it was always like little bits and pieces. Like I would ask like what do you like? I was sort of given like an outline, and then I sort of like just sort of ran with it. Like things like just I mean like a lot of it, you know what I mean? Like, and there was some aspects of it that like were just sort of given to me, and others that were sort of just loosely interpreted.
Putting your own twist on these the ideas that they had thrown your way.
Exactly, yeah.
It's fucking dope, man. So at this point, you've got the gimmick, you've got the training and all that. It's time for the Whisper to have their first match. What does that look like? Tell us about your memories of your first match.
The first match. So it's actually funny. The my initial debut actually it actually got delayed because I hurt myself in like I literally, I mean, you can still see it to this day if you watch me wrestle. I have a very I have like a bit of a pointy shoulder. If you watch like Shinsuke Nakamura, he has those gross pointy shoulders. I have the same kind of thing. Separate, if you get the chance to separate your shoulder, I'd recommend not doing that. But so that happened to me like it was October 15th, 2016. I separated my shoulder, and that resulted in my debut being pushed back, because obviously I couldn't really train or whatever to be ready for this like December debut, because December of that year would have been when all of the filming for the secret season was happening, and initially I was supposed to be a part of that, and then I got hurt and things had to be rewritten, and that's always fun.
Right.
So I ended up debuting at the 2017 Young Lions Cup tournament, which I think was I believe that was National Pro Wrestling Day that year. National Pro Wrestling Day was and is, I think, has been a different day. It's been every single year. But 2017 was the National Pro Wrestling Day. I believe that I debuted at. That was the Young Lions Cup. And I remember, I think it was a week. I don't think I even had a week to really know that I was debuting, let alone going to the finals. which was just like, I remember that day. I remember I think when I realized that like that was like what the situation specifically was, and I was like, wait, I have to do, oh my god, what? It was definitely getting thrown into the fire.
Which is often how it ends up being for a lot of people.
Right.
It's wild.
So I ended up doing on my first day of being a professional wrestler, I had 3 wrestling matches,
Oh, shit.
which is something I never could have. I never would have expected in a million years. And it was a really great. It was a really special honor, to be to be given such a role, literally at the very start of your journey into wrestling.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, like you said it best. It really is throwing you right into the fire. But I mean, there's really, at that point, there's no better way to learn, like being thrown in there for like a massive event on National Pro Wrestling Day. Like everything just seems to be working in your favor of having like high stakes in that first day.
I have a lot of fond memories of that day for sure. It was very interesting. I remember too, like one of the other things that like Mike would do to prepare you for matches that you would have without telling you specifically that you were going to have these matches would be to say, maybe you should watch a bit of Space Monkey matches and just walk off. Like, just, maybe you should watch a bit of Jody Fleisch and then just leave. Always 100% of the time that meant you were going to wrestle that person.
That's the tell that worked for everyone. Tremendous.
That's the one. Maybe you should watch a bit of this person.
That's hilarious. So at this point, you've got this match. You have this incredible opportunity. And I'm assuming that, I mean, National Pro Wrestling Day was always like a local PA show, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially at least within the time that I was with Chikara, I think it had gone. I think for the most part they were always in Pennsylvania, but
right.
They were always like really big shows because they were free shows. So like everyone loves free.
Yeah.
So like literally, and so like those were always great shows. Just be like part of the reason because the Wrestle Factory would be just packed with people. Which were always which like when the energy level was like super, super, super high in that room, it was just so special. So special.
So let's talk about your first wrestling road trip. What was that like? Who'd you go with? What details are come to mind when it comes to that? Because obviously, it's one thing to be working close to home, but it's another to be traveling like hours upon hours to some random spot that you've never been to in your life, to then have to set up shop and do the same stuff that you've been busting your ass for. So what was that first road trip like?
I think the first road trip was either Alabama or Florida. Both happened within a month of each other. I don't remember which one came first, but it was one of the two. Either way, they were, I think, respectively, like, I don't know, 11 and 13-hour drives each way.
Yeah, that's a significant trip.
Yeah. They were like, it was great. I mean, like the time overall was always like well spent, I would say. It's interesting. It's interesting going around to like just different promotions, different areas, because everything, like everyone does something like a little different everywhere.
Oh, certainly.
And I mean, Alabama is always at least like little, like there's always that chance where you'll have the pro wrestling belt with the Confederate flag, which that's
gonna make a couple of northern boys pretty uncomfortable.
It's one of those. It's just like cool. It's just one of those like reminders, like
right.
You're like staring around, like the suspension of disbelief is no more.
I remember the first time that we went and did Virginia, and we did a trip down. There was a car full of us, and literally once you cross the border into Virginia, from where we were coming from, there is a it wasn't a rest stop, but it was like a regular like gas station convenience store called Mason-Dixon Grocery or something like that. And
so literally, you were coming in from like West Virginia area. Then you probably not so much from like Maryland, I guess.
I honestly I don't remember which direction we came in from. I just remember like it might not have been on the Mason-Dixon, but they sure as hell had a fucking Confederate flag in the big sign for the spot, and I'm just like, that was my first experience, like seeing that up close and being like, yo, we're not in Kansas anymore, man. Like this is some wild stuff.
I love the Confederate flags in rural Pennsylvania. Those are
Uh,
always those are always the most confusing ones for
uh,
me. I always like, do you know where you are?
I'll
Never mind.
I'll give you one even more confusing. Upstate New York Confederate flags. Fucking wild, wild stuff. Like we used to do trips up to like Buffalo and stuff like that, and then on like the way up, like maybe an hour out from Buffalo, it's like boom, Confederate flags being sold everywhere, and it's just like now I know this ain't about Southern pride because y'all motherfuckers can spit into Canada. Like, come on.
Like, oh my goodness. I
Uh,
can't even imagine anyone being angry about anything in Buffalo. They have Mighty Taco. There's there's Mighty Taco in Buffalo.
uh,
Do you know what we don't have literally everywhere else in the country? Mighty Taco. Do you know what Buffalo has?
Mighty Taco. Yeah, wild, fucking just
Renee.
ridiculousness.
Unbelievable.
Well, I'm glad that we can at least share our repulsion for that flag. But yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like if you've spent all of your training up north, your first opportunity to go see something like that is just like, oh man, this is a culture shock. But it is
Right.
still very, very, very prevalent.
It sure is.
So
Yeah, so I mean, like, those are the first two trips. I think probably my favorite trips were always like the trips up to Canada. Those were always fun.
yeah, Canada's got an incredible scene.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. The like just the Toronto in general is just a super super cool city, and then the venue. The one venue that I got to work in Toronto for Demand Lucha, like the opera, it was like it's just called the Opera House. It's just that's all it is, and it's one of the coolest places I've ever been in. It's just it's beautiful. It's way 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 too nice of a place to hold a wrestling show, and yet the humans who own it are gracious enough to let us make wrestling there anyway.
Yeah, man, that's Canada is such there's a blossoming scene out there in so many, and that's the great thing also about Canada is that all the provinces have like their own style and like different workers and I forgot who I was talking to, but they were talking about how like there was a point where you could literally stay in one province and work like 2-3 times a weekend every weekend. And a lot of people just chose to kind of do that for a long time because they didn't have to travel to get work and consistent work and make money.
Yeah, that's the dream, right?
Right. So let's switch things up. We're sharing all these fun times, but wrestling is rough on the body and the brain. So was there ever a point early on where you kind of doubted yourself and were like down on wrestling and thought maybe this isn't what I'm gonna do?
Maybe not never ever so much as like this isn't what I am going to do, but definitely the feeling of wow, I just fucked up. That was ee. Definitely the general shame of like knowing that like you just totally shit the bed. That's like I think the worst, really.
It's
Um,
especially in such a high pressure spot.
really like looking back on like any of the situations that ever ended up like of that nature, it's always I mean, something I'm going to end up blaming on myself regardless, but probably something that, like, had I just prepared better or done X or Y better, it might have been avoided, or it might have just been the same. But uh, there's definitely so many things, like, within the first year that I wish I would have just been, like, a little bit more prepared for.
Let's take a second now to step in the time machine. if the Whisper that we're speaking to right now can go back and speak to day one walking in Whisper, what advice would you give yourself?
Everything takes less time than you think it does. So, like, because I still hear this now to this day, and I mean we all probably hear it from somebody, like the slow down kid, but like really to the, like, when I first started, like, that was just, it would just be like racing thought, like, it really, what I needed to tell day one Whisper was to calm the fuck down. Like, trust. I needed to tell that day one Whisper and day this Whisper, like, chill, like, what you're doing, you're here for a reason, and, like, you can do this shit. Like, that's what I needed to tell day one Whisper.
So now we get to my favorite question on the podcast, because I've got a theory. And that theory is that the oddest, weirdest, craziest, most unique human beings that you meet in your lifetime always manage to come into your life within the early stages of your pro wrestling career. So, Whisper, can you think back and name the oddest, weirdest, craziest, most unique person that you managed to come across early on?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I guess there's a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of people and instances. One that always sticks in my head was an interaction with it was just an interaction with a fan, actually. It was an interaction with a fan up in Canada. It was one of the first times I went to Canada. I think it was the first time I had actually, like, wrestled in Canada. Like, I think I had served the role of driver to Canada trips before that, but I think this particular instance was the first time I actually had wrestled in Canada. And so after the show, I remembered I met this one this one fan, and he had started talking about Third Strike, which is, I don't know if you're familiar. It's a one of the Street Fighter games, Third Strike.
Oh yeah, dude, I used to play that all the time.
Yeah. So he started talking about that, and I, not really knowing what else to connect it to, I was like, oh, I have a friend I know that plays plays Third Strike, like, competitively. And because, like, I obviously, like, I play yo-yo. I have this whole other random network of, like, niche humans that I also interact with on some level. And one of them, his name's Yuki Spencer. He's apparently, I mean, not apparently, but he's, like, a really, really good Third Strike player, apparently, to the point that this man in Canada, this random man at the wrestling show in Canada, when I told him, he's like, it's like, yeah, who's your friend? What's his name? And I was like, his name's Yuki. And this dude lost his mind. He was like, you know Yuki? I was like shocked. I was like, yeah, I do, but why do you know this person? It was such a weird interconnection of, like, my two, like strange little worlds. And I was just like, it's one of the things that I always, like, just like, that is very, very weird.
It's interesting when you could find people that, fall into, like, the two categories of life that you're, existing in. Like, I know, Chris, my tag partner, whenever he finds, like, fans or other people on the road who are, like, or even other wrestlers who, like, he's just meeting for the first time, who are, like, involved in the world of, like, punk or hardcore. Like, I know that when he had met this wrestler out of Pittsburgh by the name of Remy LeVay, he met him.
Yeah,
I
know Remy. He's awesome.
Right, but he also, like, he's very much involved in, like, his local scene, and, like,
sure.
We used to, and Remy is close with the band Code Orange, obviously another Pittsburgh band that, like, Remy's played with and stuff. And then
Right.
like I just remember him and Chris like bullshitting with each other about, music. So it's always interesting to like find people when like you can connect all these, small little bubbles that you're involved in.
Right. It was such an interesting like intersection that I was like, that's huh. What a weird place to know this random human. You don't even know him for the reason that I know him. That's the strangest thing. You know him as like the best third strike player in the world, and I know him as arguably the best yo-yo player in the world. So like we're not the same. Is that what that meme is? Is that what that meme means? I don't know. I don't know.
Whisper, where can we find you on social media, and is there anything else that you want to plug?
I mean, social media is gonna be at for Twitter, it's at the Whisper with 2 underscores between the and Whisper. I think 1 underscore the Whisper was taken and is being held hostage by someone with no followers I hate. But my Instagram is at it's the Whisper, and I need to post more on both platforms, and I don't necessarily have anything to plug, but if anyone has suggestions for things that they want to see from me, content from the Whisper, post about it on social media. Hit me up. You know what I mean? We'll see what we can make happen.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, Whisper, thank you so much for coming on to the show. This was an absolute pleasure for me getting to know all about your background and breaking in how that went. I don't think it is a secret at this point. I think I'm very open about like, loving wrestling and being a fan of wrestling. And, I'm not shy about saying who I always love watching. And you're a dude who I love to watch. It was an absolute pleasure to get in the ring with you and have you carry my big ass. Seriously,
hey man,
like
you carried just as much, if only metaphorically.
Listen, I've been carrying my own giant ass for the longest time. But no, dude, you took such good care of me, and there's a ton of respect that I have for you both, as a human being and a performer. Fucking, you are nothing but dopeness, and fuck yeah, you're fucking awesome, dude. Thank you so much for coming on.
Feeling is very, very mutual. Thank you very much.
Really stoked we were able to have that one at a normal volume, and yes, I will continue to make Whisper jokes on the Whisper episode. That is correct. Thanks again to the Whisper for coming on the show, sharing his story, and some really, really fun banter. But before we get out of here, you should go ahead and give us a follow on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Year1Pod. Also make sure to subscribe to the channel on your preferred podcasting app and leave a review. Shout out to Heroes for the Music. You can check them out on Spotify. Shout out to Joanna Robinson for all the artwork and design. Julie Chan on all social media. Shout out to the Funky Design Wrestling Superstore for sponsoring the show, located at the Englishtown Flea Market in Englishtown, New Jersey, and on eBay. And now they've got a brand new website. Make sure to check them out and give their Facebook page a like for all your wrestling merch needs. That'll be all for this episode of the Year One Wrestling Podcast. I'm Logan Black telling you, be awesome to each other. Peace and love.